Okay, welcome to HKICPA Module D, okay, about examination techniques about Session A. So it is my turn to come to this seminar. So you're not actually studying Module C, you're actually studying Module D. Okay, now some of you I know, but some of you I don't. Okay, on behalf of ETC, okay, I welcome you to this seminar. So let me introduce myself first. I'm the Managing Director and the Principal Lecturer for ETC, okay? I'm responsible for teaching MC and MD, okay? Module C and Module D. So my teaching is, therefore, it's only a part-time, okay? Because I work in a practicing CPA firm, okay, in Central, so I just walk across, okay? It took me 5 minutes. So, but in the examination, for examination training, I have been involved in the HKICPA and my personal school for about 8 years. So in my experience, I actually took quite a lot of exams, okay, to reach this stage. So earlier stages, I actually took the ACCA and the AIA, but eventually I took the QP as well, okay, in order to gain my practicing certificate. So I actually did quite a lot of exams, especially in tax. So I face with tax every day, okay? Because as I practice, I normally practice with a lot of auditing skills and taxation skills. So in my past, okay, I had actually taught about 3,000 students, okay? So I hope to be able to teach more. I'm not sure, okay? So, so it's my turn that I know you, so you can actually ask me questions during break time, and I will leave my contacts for you for future contacts about this examination. So today, I'm actually told to share with you some examination techniques and to actually go over 2 of the past papers with you, especially in Session A. So from my experiences for this exam, I don't think it's a very difficult exam, okay? I don't know if I should be actually recording this, but I don't think it's a very difficult one, okay? If you study in the right path, okay, in the right decision and then the right path, then you will actually pass this exam very quickly, okay? If you go in the wrong way, okay, it might take you a while to pass this exam. So it is about not just learning your stuff, it's about actually presenting your examination techniques. So I think it's a good idea to share with you some of the examination techniques, not only in Module D, okay? I can actually share with you some of the examinations techniques that would actually apply to all the modules and also FE as well. So let's go on with today's agenda. Now, I've been told by HKICPA that I'm supposed to do 3 examinations, okay, the past examinations, but I've decided to actually choose to do May and December 2010. So December 2010 was the first exam under the enhanced QP, okay, and May 2010 was the last one, okay, under the old syllabus of Module D, okay, in the previous QP syllabus. In my experience, I didn't see much difference, okay? I didn't see a very big gap in between these 2 syllabuses as compared to maybe in Module B, okay? Or even, I didn't see much differences in Module C as well. I'm not too sure about Module A, but I definitely don't think that there's not a lot of gap. But I think there will be a bigger gap, okay? I think there will be a larger gap between now and the coming examinations. So I think HKICPA is actually changing, okay, some of the formats, especially focusing on some of the new topics, okay, to be presented in the new syllabus. Now, I need to also talk about the open book examination. So as compared to my experiences, because I did the closed book as well, so you are expected more, okay? Because everyone can take anything inside, okay? You probably take a suitcase with you, okay? So you normally take suitcases with you in FE. So for me, I don't think it is necessary to take too many stuff, okay? I'll tell you why, okay, later. probably you need to walk up the stairs. Okay, that's the main point. But I will tell you how to tackle the open book. The expectation for an open book examination is much more, okay, especially in the Module D. Okay, you're expected to quote a lot of cases, a lot of sections in the right orders, and also in the right places. And also how to interpret the issues in the case scenario. Okay, some of the problems with the students, they don't really understand what the case is about and what are the tax issues. You're not sure how to identify the tax issues. That's the problem. Now, in order to pass this exam, you have 2 stages to go, okay, to achieve. The first one is you are able to achieve is to identify the tax issues, okay, in the question. You understand the question, what it is asked. And the second part is the writing part. Some of you may be very, very familiar with the sections, very familiar with the tax rules, but you're not able to actually write the answers out in a very logical manner, in an exam techniques manner. Now, for revision courses, I know some of you have joined, okay, revision courses. Mainly, we can actually practice a lot of identifying tax issues. But it is a matter of homework for you at home to be able to write, okay, to write out the answers. Now, some of my students joining my MD classes, they actually need to submit homework to me, okay. The reasons why is I need to understand what they are writing. Okay, it's not a matter of fact that you don't understand the tax rules. It's a matter of fact whether I understand what you wrote, okay, on the piece of paper. Because this is the only communication that you are able to deal with the examiner, okay, with the marker. So this is an issue that I will tell you what kind of writing skills you might need. Now, there's a high mark and a low mark, okay, we will call this. So I will tell you the differences and also the difference between a general question and a specific question, especially the application part. Now, this is the agenda for tonight's seminar. Now, I have actually split it into quite a lot of part because if I tell you about techniques, okay, it will take me 1.5 hours. So I don't think anybody wants to bear with me just talking about techniques for 1.5 hours. So I will actually incorporate some of the past paper, okay, in between, and then I'll go back some of the techniques. Now for MD, okay, you must be able to quote the sections, okay, you must be able to quote the sections. For example, okay, profit tax, okay, we are supposed to be quoting section 14, okay, section 14, the charging section. And if you told me, okay, after you done the exam, and you told me that, oh, you haven't written any section 14, okay, there must be some marks missing. There must be somehow some marks missing. Or even section 16, okay, the general deduction rule, or even the salary tax, the charging section. Imagine how come the exam, okay, how come the examination would not examine charging section, okay? And also the subsection, you need to be really careful. A capital A and a not a capital A, it makes a difference, okay? And also whether the brackets, it makes a difference, okay? Whether you put inside, whether you put outside. And you need to understand also the DIPN, okay? Now, I don't suggest you to download any DIPN. It's not suggested to do that, okay? It's especially DIPN 21, okay? You don't want to actually wasting papers, especially when you can't find the tax rules inside the DIPN 21. You don't know what to copy. And the cases as well. Now, in these few exams, okay, in the past exams in May 2010 and also December 2010, some of the cases are actually applied, okay, especially the updated ones. They have actually created the question based on the cases, exactly the same facts, and you are supposed to quote the case, okay? So there are many cases, I can tell you. Now, for the examination, you don't have to say the case's year. You don't have to say who won the case, what court of final appeal. No need. Okay, you quote the tax issues, then you quote the case name. Good enough for the bonus mark. Okay, but you have to be very sharp. Okay, you have to be very sharp and accurate. Not just quoting this Hang Seng Bank case for ages, and you need to say, oh, Hang Seng Bank versus the commissioner. Okay, it's not necessary. You just have to quote Hang Seng Bank case. Good enough, 1 mark. Okay, so this is a very quick way that you need to be able to do that. Now, the examiner, the marker, expects you to write the section, DIPN, and the cases. Everything. Now, in my teaching, I normally ask my students, okay, just remember operation test, then quote Hansen Bank case, quote TVBI case, finish. I mean, of course, there are other cases that are relevant to operation test, okay? But it's not necessary. If you wrote 10 cases to support operation test, what's the point? Okay, you get 1 bonus mark anyway, okay? So it's not necessary to quote all the cases. Now, be really careful when you actually review the examination papers. Some of the answers are not that consistent, okay? Meaning that sometimes they will quote Hansen Bank case or TVBI case in one paper. Sometimes they won't, okay? Then it will actually confuse you because you will think that, okay, do I really need to quote the case? Do I really need to quote the section, okay? In my opinion is the answer is yes. You always quote the section. You always quote the DIPN, and you always quote the cases, provided you are sure about that. Okay? If you're not sure, please don't quote it. Okay? Just forget it. Now, for the correct application, now a lot of students telling me that they can actually copy a lot, okay, from the CLP and they pass. Okay? Now, I think they are tricking you. Okay? Because most of them are calling that application, okay, application of the tax rules instead of just quoting. Now imagine if you have 10 marks, okay, the question got 10 marks. Around 3 marks, okay, approximately around 3 marks is from where you can copy. It's from where you can actually copy from the CLP, you got a book or you got essential notes, okay. But the 7 marks, okay, the 7 marks are application. For application. Now, some students will stop after they finish copying from the CLP. Then you stop just after gaining 3 marks. So what happened to the 7 marks? Then you fail. Okay, you thought you have written a lot, but you didn't. Okay, you just copy. So you need to count marks. Now, in my actually experiences, for a 5 marks question, some students will tell me, okay, I will write 5 points. Okay, in my opinion is I don't think 5 marks question you write 5 points are good enough. It's good enough. Okay, I presumably you actually write a little bit more because some of the marks, okay, some of the relevant points may only cost you around 1 single mark, okay, or even half a mark. Okay, sometimes your marks, okay, your points may not be under the marking scheme, so you then will have lost the mark. Okay, that's the problem. Sometimes you only count, okay, 5 marks. Now, we expect a lot of simple English, simple sentences, shorter sentences, not really longy paragraphs. Okay, I don't expect a 5 marks question you write 2 pages. I don't expect that. Okay, I expect at most you write, okay, 3/4 of a page. I think that's good enough. Okay, it's not a very efficient to write a lot. Now, and also present your answer in a logical manner. Why I'm saying that is because on your every piece of question for Module 8 even to Module D, even in your FE, the first thing is saying present your answer in a logical manner. What is a logical manner? You are expecting to give the tax rule, give at the application of the case, give a conclusion. Okay, give a conclusion. Taxable, deductible. Okay, whether the taxpayer will win, whether you need to suggest any evidence. Now, for taxes, okay, imagine if you are dealing with a tax case, okay, just like in the exam, a lot of evidence, a lot of tax evidence, or a lot of clues, okay, are not presented in the question. You are supposed to use assumption. Okay, if you say, okay, if it is assumed, okay, I don't know, maybe if it is assumed that, okay, the interest is borrowed from the bank, whatever, then you will say the tax rule will be like this. Anything changes, okay, if you make the correct assumption and you write the correct tax rule, you will gain a mark. Even your answer is not exactly as the answer suggests the answer by the exam. So please use assumption. Okay, why are they telling me, why is the exam telling me that you need to do a logical manner answer? Okay, the problem is like this. The problem is sometimes, okay, the commissioner will win. Sometimes the taxpayer will win. Okay, you are supposed to, in the exam, you are supposed to say both. Okay, you're supposed to say both. Some of you may just say, okay, the taxpayer can claim the deduction, full stop. Okay, but what happens if he can't actually submit? Okay, if he can't actually submit the evidence, then he cannot gain any assumption. Okay, he cannot gain any advantage. Then the commissioner will win. Okay, so in the examination, you are supposed to give both sides in order. Okay, in order to gain the marks. Of course, for a 3 marks question, you're not supposed to give everything. But for a 10 marks question, you are supposed to give both. So you need to adjust your length of answer. Okay, it is not wise to give a lot of details. It is only for 3 marks question. Now, for your answer plan, okay, I've actually done quite 6 steps. Okay, you can actually think of, the first thing is you get the right tax. But I don't think anybody will get, if it is asked about profit tax, I don't think you will answer salary tax. But the first problem is, watch out your spelling. Okay, we got S behind profit. Okay, we got S. Okay, we are telling salaries tax. Okay, it's always a mistake. Okay, when I mark my scripts, always spelling mistakes. Now it's an open book. Okay, it's an open book exam. You're not supposed to have it. Okay, you're not supposed to have a lot of spelling mistakes. And also you need to consider about stamp duty. If you talk about profit tax, okay, especially, then you need to think about stamp duty as well. Depends on the marks. Okay, now, and the second step is whether the question is about income, okay, whether the question is about expense, it makes a difference. Okay, look out for the question. Okay, what is it asked about? Is it about asking the taxpayer? Is it asking about the commissioner? Okay, is the person receiving income, or is the person actually, okay, deducting an expense? It makes a difference. Okay, the problem is sometimes you don't even know how to distinguish who is actually receiving the income and who is actually paying expenses. Or even the question can ask both. Okay, income and expense. Okay, income, you got charging section. Okay, section 14, section 8. Okay, for deduction, you got section 16. For salary tax, you got section 12. Okay, at least you need to be very, very familiar with this. Now, always write the charging section first. Okay, if you don't pass the charging section, there's nothing to talk about. Okay, you cannot go further. Okay, you have no idea to go further. If you want to talk about trading profits, there's no way you can write this without quoting section 14, the charging section, right? If you're talking about deduction rule, there's no point talking about special deduction rule unless you satisfy the general deduction rule under section 16. So even a lot of students, they forgot about quoting the correct section for general deduction rule. Okay, always miss 1 mark for the general deduction rule. Okay, the first thing is whether it is incurred in the production of chargeable profit. That's the first point. Now, then you use the IPN and cases, okay, to support your answer. Then apply the question facts. If I were you, okay, I will open a new paragraph. I will open a new paragraph to demonstrate to the marker. Now I am actually applying, okay, I'm actually applying. What I will do is I actually open a new paragraph and I will use some terms or some wordings to tell the marker that I'm actually applying. Like, I will say, applying to the case, blah, 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 the taxpayer. Or I will say, in the case, the facts are. Then I will tell the application. If I were the examiner, if I were the marker, if I give you the marks, I would put more weight on the marks that you actually quoted applying to the case. rather than quoting the text rules. Imagine you got 1,000 students, okay, attempting MD. Everybody can copy the text rule. What makes the difference between a pass and fail is whether the application is correct, okay, whether you did apply. So the first thing is you need to start a paragraph, write the keywords telling me applying to the facts that I will submit whatever and apply the test. Then discuss the different applications under different assumptions. Then I will open another paragraph, okay? Open another paragraph saying that under this assumption, okay? I will say under this assumption, assuming the taxpayer is claiming whatever, is submitting whatever, then whether it is deductible or whether the income is taxable, okay? So you need to talk to you need to communicate to the examiner on both sides, not just telling me, oh, okay, he can deduct, or the income is taxable. Then you won't gain your marks. Then it depends. It depends whether the examination, whether the question is about 10 marks question or 3 marks question. For a 10-mark question, how to make the answer longer. Some of my students, you know what they did? They actually copied the introduction again, the text rule again, to make the answer longer. Then you won't gain any marks anyway, okay? What you should do is think about what tax evidence you can submit to the commissioner, okay? What kind of tax evidence? Bank statements, okay? Lease agreements, okay? Anything like that, invoices, okay? Agreements, anything like this, legal documents. To make it longer and to make it relevant to your examination, you must suggest some of the further evidence and give a reasonable conclusion. Okay? What do you mean by reasonable? There is no definite. Okay? There is no definite conclusion. You cannot say, oh, this must be taxable. The income must be taxable. The expenses must be deductible. It's not correct. Okay, it's not correct because there are lots of facts that are not given in the question. So you can actually say conclusively, we assume, okay, we reasonably assume or we can reasonably conclude the income is taxable. Okay, upon the agreement of whether the commissioner agrees. Now, this is a reasonable conclusion. Or you can say, based on the facts of the question, we assume the income is taxable. Okay? Give a reasonable conclusion. This is a very bad habit if you don't give a conclusion. Imagine we are talking about the badges of trade, whether it is capital or whether it is trading. Now, there are always two sides, and you are always talking, oh, these are capital, these are trading. Then what's the conclusion? Tax or not? Okay? Is it taxable or it is not taxable? Okay? What is the conclusion? Okay, so you need to be really quick, okay, to give a reasonable. Now for these steps, you need to practice, okay, you need to practice for most of the long questions, especially the 10 marks question. How can you make it longer? You're not just copying. Okay, it won't work. It won't only give you like 30% of the marks, but it won't give you 100% of the marks, okay? Now for the May 2010, okay, the past paper, okay, for the case. Now, what I do is, they actually, in your handouts, okay, they have actually copied the question for you. Now, is it okay? Can you turn to May 2010 at the back of your handout, okay? Now, what will you do? The first thing you will do is, in the examination, okay, you go inside the examination after you're putting all your suitcases, and then after you're opening all the cases, you put all your files next to your very small desk, okay? Then what will you do? Okay, and then time say, okay, now the examination starts. Okay, you need to do something. Okay, now for the first thing I will say, I will review all the questions in the examination question, not just the case. Why? Why? Probably the first thing you might do is, probably some of you will just read the case questions. Some of you just will read the case. But nobody will do this. Nobody actually think, oh, we should actually review the whole cases. Okay, the whole booklet of questions. Now, what I will do is I will review the whole question. Now, it is not mandatory to answer the case first. Okay, in the examination, you can answer the section B first. Okay, normally for the first 10 minutes, you'll be very nervous anyway. Okay, so what happened is, okay, you are not really warmed up. Okay, you're not really warm up. Okay, why don't you review the whole paper? Okay, the whole paper. And you can actually see some of the questions you are very, very familiar. Okay, maybe in section B, okay, you're very familiar. Okay, normally some of the stamp duty, some of the easy question, tax administration will be at the back. Okay, now you can answer one of the questions first in section B to warm up yourself. It's probably very easy to do that. Okay, then you can go back to the case. Okay, provided you use the right booklet. Okay, this is very important because some of you use the essay booklet for the case. Okay, I've seen so many students, okay, who failed, okay, using the wrong booklet. Now, for the first thing, okay, what we should do is, imagine we have done this, and then we are starting with the case. Now, the first thing you would do is, after seeing the question, you must be able to do something. Tell me whether it is about income, or tell me whether it is about expenses, okay? Now, basically, you don't need to write, you don't really need to use highlighter. It's not my type, okay? Highlighter is not really my favorite. But what I will say is, imagine, okay, I will tell myself, okay, it is an income, expense, what section, what DIPN, just to remind yourself, okay? For this question, determine whether the interest income received by A Limited from the fixed deposit, okay, with Bank D was chargeable to profit tax. Now, it is about interest income. There are two things that you can say. Okay, you can say the provision of credit test. Okay, if you're receiving interest income other than the financial institution, DIPN 13. Okay, of course you need to quote section 14. It's a charging section. Okay, if you're receiving an income, okay, you must quote section 14 anyway. Now, for question 2, okay, discuss C Limited exposure to stamp duty in relation to its purchase of the land, okay? It is only about cost stamp duty. What you need to do is you must quote SDO, okay? You must quote SDO. Then you are telling the marker, I'm talking about section under the SDO. Okay, now you can see that exposure in relation to purchase of, okay, land. Then you are talking about the heads, right? Then you are talking about from limited, then it might remind you of the section 45 group relief. Okay, we're not seeing a lot of, okay, we're not talking about a lot of other details yet. We're just reading the question. Okay, for question 3, assume you are the tax manager of Yi & Co., okay, who is assigned with this inquiry case. Okay, draft an advice letter to Mr. X analyzing the deductibility of the above land cost and loan interest under the following sections of IRO, sections 16 and 17. Now, section 16, at least you need to quote the charging section, okay, it is about expense. Now, for the land cost, okay, you need to be careful, okay, whether it is a capital expenditure. Okay, if you're talking about capital expenditure, it's not allowable for deduction. Section 17, okay, if I were you, I will quote 1C. Okay, now it is also talking about loan interest. Okay, loan interest, you're supposed to be quoting section 16, okay, 16 bracket 1, subsection 1, and then section 16, subsection 2. Okay, for the meantime, you are not saying everything, but at least you are able to quote. Now, for section 16(1)(a), okay, which is general anti-avoidance provision, at least you are able to demonstrate the key point, okay, sole and dominant purpose to obtain a tax benefit. Okay, then I will say question 4, okay, whether the underwriting profits from the residential building in Guangzhou were chargeable to profit tax in Hong Kong. Now, at least you need to understand, okay, the key word is underwriting profits. Underwriting profit, we got a very famous case called Kwong Mao case, okay? It's too bad if you can't remember Kwong Mao case, okay? There's nothing you can do, but at least you need to know that it is about surface income. Okay, at least service income, you're quoting the operation test. Now, it is saying that if the underwriting profit were chargeable to profit tax, whether the exchange loss, okay, of 600K was an allowable deduction. Okay, it is about whether the capital, exchange loss. Exchange loss is set, section 16, general deduction rule. So it is all about capital or revenue. It is all about capital or revenue. Okay, is it okay? Now, so you need to understand, you need to understand. You are able to identify the question, Then we go to question 5. Now, it is about analyzing the salary tax of Mr. X, His salaries under contract A and contract B, Now, you need to think whether, there must be 2 employment contracts. You need to consider whether it is a Hong Kong employment or foreign employment contract. If I were you, I could quote DIPN 10. Go for the case. Now, and for B part, his gain realized from the share option, section 9, bracket 1D. It is all about share option and DIPN 38. Now, for every past paper, if you are reviewing the past paper, do the question first. At least read the question. You are able to write these sections. You are able to write these DIPNs. At least you are telling me about income or expense. What kind of profits? So you read the question first. Now, I'm turning to the, I'm turning to the case. Now you can read the case. Now, the cases are quite long. The cases are quite long, but as compared to previous diets, it's a bit shorter. Now, what will you do normally? You read, then what will you do? You just read the cases, you probably highlight the keywords. Then what happened? What happened is after you finish reading the last paragraph, you forgot the first paragraph. That's what happened to most of the students. And then by the time you write the question, you write the answers, you have to read the whole case again to find what you need. This is too slow. This is too slow. It is not the right pace. Now, what I will do is, I actually made a graph for you, but it's not necessary. You need to use definitely a whole graph. But what I will do is I will normally write some keywords in the I will write some keywords in the indents of the question. So I switch the screen to read to you together. Now what you need to do is, probably you don't need a highlighter. You need a pen. Do you have a pen? You probably need a pen. Now, what I will do is, I will say, A Limited is a leading manufacturer of electronic products in Hong Kong. In 1971, A Limited acquired a plot of land in Yunnan. Now, what happened is in Yunnan, in New Territories, it is about the land erected there on a factory for production. Now, due to the relocation of its manufacturing process to the mainland, China, the factory in Yunnan had been left vacant, since 2006. In 2007, A Limited resolved to put the land in valuable use. It is also planned to diversify its business mix by engaging in property investment in both Hong Kong and in mainland. Now, what happened? What will you summarize? What kind of keywords would you write? The first thing you need to think about, this is a manufacturer. So you might have manufacturing profits. Now you got a piece of land, but it's not for production. Now the land is vacant. Even the factory is vacant now, So the factory and the building is vacant. And now what happened is it is put in its valuable use. So the land, the land is in valuable use. Now, it's also planned to diversify the business, property investment in Hong Kong. What do you mean by property investment? Probably you will have rental income, Okay, remember this is taxable, but in mainland, okay, it is not taxable. Now, for the first paragraph, okay, you can see that, okay, A Limited is leading, okay, it is about manufacturing profits, it's about land, vacant, valuable use, okay, the rental income is, okay, the rental income can be taxable in Hong Kong. For the mainland, it is not taxable. Done, okay, you don't have to read again. Now, for the second paragraph, B & Co., a tax business advisory firm, was consulted by A Limited for the above business plan. In 2007, following the advice, okay, of B & Co., A Limited established a wholly owned subsidiary C Limited in Hong Kong with a view to redevelop the land as a residential complex. Now, what happened is redeveloping the land, okay, so it is redeveloping. Okay, as a residential complex. Now this is important. After the redevelopment, it is going to be a residential complex. So A Limited contracted to sell the land to C Limited at the consideration. Now selling the land, meaning that at least you need to understand A Limited and C Limited are associated person. Okay, they are related. Okay, they are related, and a consideration of 200 million plus 60% of the net profit. So you got 200 million and 60%. Okay, profit realized by C Limited from redevelopment. Now remember, okay, for the stamp duty, okay, you need to pay the stamp duty about 60%. This is contingent basis. Now the fair market value of the land is 500, okay, million. So it is redeveloping, so this is 500. Okay, so this is the 500 million is the fair value. Now what happened is C Limited borrowed 150 million from Bank D to finance the initial cost, okay, 200 million. Now, the loan was secured by a fixed deposit of 100 million in the name of A Limited, which was placed with a branch, okay, of Bank D in United States. Now, it is borrowed, okay, borrowed from Bank D. It occurred interest expense. So you call this bank interest expense, okay? You actually quote section 16, bracket subsection 2. Now it is using an overseas deposit, okay? It is actually using, okay, a fixed deposit from overseas. So it is secured using overseas deposits. Now, in the year ended, C Limited incurred interest expenses about 15 million in respect of the loan. Okay, while A Limited earned interest income of 10 million from the deposit. So you need to talk about the interest expense, whether it is deductible. In result, you need to consider whether the A Limited interest income is taxable. So this is all about interest. Now, in order to oversee the operation of C Limited, Mr. X, an executive director of A Limited, was transferred to serve as the chief executive CEO of C Limited. As per the advice, from B & Co., Mr. X entered into 2 employment contracts in Hong Kong. One of which is contract A, provides is responsible for the property development project, while the contract B, by govern his duties concerning the property project in mainland. Now, this is all about salary tax. This is all about salary tax. Now, there are 2 contracts. And later we can say this is a dual employment contract. Now, and you can see that one contract is in Hong Kong and one contract is in mainland. Both contracts commence on the same date and they're continuous, were independent with each other. Now, under both contracts, Mr. X was required to report directly to the chairman of A Limited, who was stationed in Hong Kong. So this is all about salary tax, This is about the scope. You need to consider whether it is a Hong Kong employment and a foreign employment. Now, in the year ended December 2008, the redevelopment of the land was completed. The net profit is 1,000 million from the sale of residential units. Pursuant to the contract with A Limited, C Limited further paid 600 million, okay, on the consideration of the land. So this is so the total land cost, okay, the total land cost, okay, as above said, would be 800 million. Okay, would be 800 million as compared to the fair value 500 million. Okay, at the end, okay, C Limited also underwrote the sale, okay, of residential building in Guangzhou as a guarantee sum of renminbi 100 million. C Limited arranged various sales presentation and promotion functions in Hong Kong in respect of the relevant building and succeeded in selling the promotion functions in Hong Kong. Now, all the flats to be 250 million. Now, what happened is due to the appreciation, it made an exchange loss. Now, what happened is this is underwriting income. Okay, you have underwriting services. And at the end, what happened is you are causing 600,000, okay, exchange loss. Now, this is, okay, DIPN 42. And this is also underwriting services. Okay, you can still quote Kwong Mao case. Now, during the year of assessment, okay, Mr. X was on the business trips to mainland for 45 days. He was remunerated with an annual salary 1 million under each of the contract and an option to subscribe 100,000 shares in A Limited, okay, under the contract A. Mr. X, okay, resigned from C Limited in March 2009. He exercised the share option at the end of March 2009. So claim exemption, Mr. X actually claimed exemption under the share option. Now this is all about salary tax. Okay, the scope, number of days. Okay, and then the share option. This is section 9 1D. Now, after reading once, okay, you will be able to identify the whole, okay, the whole case. What happened is after you wrote the keywords, you will be able to summarize again. Now, for example, if I want to record this case, okay, I would just say, okay, this land is vacant now, is available for use. What happened is going to redevelop the land, okay? So it is going for a related party about C Limited. Now what happened is C Limited borrowed some expenses, okay? I did not borrow the loan, okay? Incur some interest expense, causing whether it is deductible. Now we have Mr. X here, okay? He has two contracts. We wrote two contracts, okay? So we have contract A and contract B. Now, what happens is after the completion, able to sell, okay, the land cost 800 million. And what happened is C Limited underwrote some services to sell the flats, but it incurred exchange loss. Then what happened is Mr. X again, okay, got some share options. Okay, after I've done this, I read once, and I could actually summarize again the whole case. I don't really need a highlighter. Okay, now what happened is, what you need to do is, okay, you record the question. Okay, determine the interest income received by A Limited from the fixed deposit of Bank D. Okay, then what happened is you go back. Okay, you go back and you find, okay, A Limited. So the question 1 is here. In your third paragraph, can you see that? Okay, in your third paragraph. Then it is telling us, discuss the exposure to stamp duty in relation to the purchase of land. Okay, we're talking about the purchase of land. You got 2 million here, so you go question 2 in your second paragraph. Then not finished, because we still have what we call is a 60% of the profits. So we actually pay 800 million. So we come back to here, we wrote question 2 as well. in your fifth paragraph. Now for question 3, okay, last week C Limited received an inquiry, okay, it is about the land cost 800 million, and also it is about the interest, okay, the loan interest. Now what happened, you can see that, okay, the land, okay, there's a problem. So we can see the question 3, okay, about the land. And we can actually see the interest as well, okay? We can see the interest is here. So it has actually incurred 50 million. So we write question 3. Now we go back to question 4, okay? The question 4 is about the underwriting profits, okay? So it is about the underwriting profits, so you go to the 5th paragraph as well, okay? So this is question 4, and exchange loss, question 4. Okay, at last, okay, for question 5, it is talking about Mr. X, okay, the income, the contract, and the share option. So you can go to see, this is under the 4th paragraph, question 5, and the last paragraph, question 5. Done. Can you see that? Now what happened, and then you, after reading once and able to identify which paragraph for which question, then you need to start writing. Okay? There's no point to read the case again. Okay? If you read the case again, you will have too little time to write your answer, and you will probably miss some of the questions. Is it okay? Now, then you go starting to write, okay? You start to write the answer. So we go back to our slides. Actually, I don't use PPT in my revision course, but HKICPA prefers, okay? Now, so that's why it is in point form. So you need to understand this. Now, if you go to question 1, okay, if you go to question 1, it is about the source of interest, okay, income received by a business other than a financial institution or a money lender. So you probably use provision of credit test DIPN 13. Now what happened is, okay, I will actually describe provision of credit test. Now, the first thing is, after you're writing provision of credit test, you will quote the DIPN 13, okay, revise. Now, I will write the tax rule, okay. What is the provision of credit test is about whether the first borrow fund is available to the borrower in Hong Kong. Now, applying to the case, okay, the funds from A Limited, the interest income is from a fixed deposit in Bank D. Okay, it is an overseas branch of a bank. Okay, it is an overseas branch of a bank. Now the source is outside Hong Kong. Okay, it is overseas. It is not in Hong Kong. So it is a non-taxable income under Section 14. Interest income, okay, also would not be deemed by a trading receipt. It's nothing to do with Section 15. Now what happened is I will wrote 2 sentences in my tax info question 1, okay, the tax rules first. Okay, the first thing I will tell the examiner, it is about the source of interest income. At least I can understand it is an interest income. And also I will use the tax rule and apply to the case. Okay, then I will give a conclusion whether it is a taxable or non-taxable. I don't assume you write deductible. Okay, it's not the correct wordings anyway for interest income. Okay, then you're supposed to get 4 marks. There's nothing more. Okay, whether you need to write tax evidence, I don't think so. For 4 marks question, you need to submit your loan agreement. You need to support your bank statements. It's not necessary. It's only a 4 marks question. Then we go to question 2. It is about the exposure to stamp duty. Now it is a 5 marks question. Okay. Now what happened is they are transferring the land. okay, the land is also governed by stamp duty under head 1.1. Okay, you need to identify that. If you couldn't, you say, oh, no stamp duty paid, then it's done. You're done. You cost 0 marks. Okay, finish. So you need to be really careful. Okay, it's about transferring of building and lands. Now, also, but you need to consider it is about two companies selling to each other, and you need to be very familiar that two companies are actually associated. Okay, they are associated. So what happened is I would write, okay, the transaction is actually under the head 1.1 of SDO, the Stamp Duty Ordinance. Then the second part is I will recall whether we should apply the group relief or not under Section 45. Okay, group relief. Then I will start, remember I said in the first thing is I will start a new paragraph. Okay, a new paragraph is whether applying to the case, whether I could, okay, whether the company could actually apply Section 45 exemption. Now, then you apply to the case, okay, A Limited and C Limited are associated because under the case, okay, the case facts, A Limited is actually holding C Limited 100%. Okay, it is holding 100%. It is more than 90%. Okay, it is actually more than 90%. Okay, therefore, Section 45, okay, should apply. Okay, Section 45 should apply, subject to some of the conditions as well. Okay, the first thing is you need to record the financing consideration. Okay, and you need to say that according to the facts of the case, okay, C Limited has actually arranged, okay, Bank D to acquire the land, okay, under Section 45. Now, for a bank, okay, if you borrow from a bank, it is allowable because it is in the ordinary course of business. Okay, you need to say in the ordinary course of business. And in the case, it has only used the bank deposit as security. Therefore, exemption is not lost. You can still apply Section 45. Now, I'm surprised that the case did not mention Arrowtown case. Okay, it is a matter of you can still recall Arrowtown case. Although it is a consideration, okay, you need to consider whether the consideration is financed by an insider or an outsider. Okay, you need to consider whether it is about insider or outsider. And also you need to remain 2 years as associated companies. Okay, is it okay? Now, for my briefly, I think the answer still missing something. Do you think what did it miss? You're satisfied with 5 marks, right? Okay, but I think you should still say adjudication is required. It's not in the answer. Okay, but to apply any stamp duty exemption, you need adjudication. Okay, it is a process. You must adjudicate before you are allowed to claim the relief. So, in my opinion, the answer is good, but the answer you can add a bit more to demonstrate your understanding of Section 45 under group relief. Now, for this question, at least I suppose you have 2 or 3 paragraphs. Okay. At least the first paragraph I will say, okay, this is about stamp duty. What is the scope? Okay, some of my students even will write the percentage, if you want, the rate. Okay, I mean this is the maximum rate. What expect? Okay, is 800 million. Okay, but of course you can actually say, okay, the critical question is whether you can apply group relief. Now, group relief is, you need to be really careful, it's always between related parties. Okay, it is always between related parties. So if it is selling, okay, selling some properties or land or shares, okay, you need to consider whether the transactions are between 2 related parties. Then you need to consider the group relief. Once you hit the group relief, you have a set of answer that you need to place. Okay, you cannot just say, okay, we should apply group relief, section 45. You must give something, okay? Now, for my marking scheme, associated company, must, mandatory, okay? 2 years, you need to remain the structure for 2 years, mandatory. The consideration, okay, for the Arrowtown case, mandatory. Adjudication required, mandatory. Okay, although it's not here anyway. Is it okay? So what we call this 5 marks question. What happens if it is a 7 marks, 8 marks question? What will you do? Okay, it can be asked like this. Okay, what happened to the timing? What happened to the timing? Now, it is telling you, okay, if I were the examiner, okay, I will be harsher. Why? It is telling you that it is paying 200 million plus a percentage, okay, plus a percentage of how much profit you can make from the selling of the flats. Now, by the time I pay the 200 million, could I determine it is 800 million? I don't think so, okay? Do you understand? Okay, by the time you pay 200 million, okay, you could not estimate that it is about 800 million anyway, right? Okay, will you apply some contingency basis? Okay, because you can ascertain. By the time you could ascertain the 800, okay, 800 million, then you have to pay the stamp duty again. Right? And also, remember, okay, the fair value is only 500 million. The fair value of the land is only 500, right? It is in the question. So would you pay stamp duty on the 800 million or 500? Yeah? You choose 500 or 800? Or you don't say it because you're not sure. Okay, you're not sure in the exam. Then don't write it. Okay? Now, remember the value, okay, the consideration is always the higher of the stated, okay, the cost of consideration or the value is always the higher one, okay? Government always wants more money, so it's always the higher. Remember? Okay? It can be quite complicated, okay? It can be quite complicated as compared what it is asked now. Now, for question 3, okay, question 3 is about, okay, it is saying that last week, okay, C Limited received an inquiry from the Inland Revenue Department, okay, in respect of its deduction of the land cost, 800 million, and the loan interest is 50 million for the year of assessment. On behalf of C Limited, Mr. X engaged, okay, another company, okay, to handle the inquiry. Assuming you are the tax manager and who is assigned with the inquiry case, draft an advice letter to Mr. X analyzing the deductibility of the above land costs and loan interest under the following sections of IRO. Now, the first thing is the format. It's a letter, okay? I assume there's 1 mark, okay? I mean, 1 mark can cause you failure in the examination, so at least you put in a letter format, okay? So you say, I don't know, dear, whoever engaged you, okay? So after writing that, then you need to consider the land cost, okay? Now the land cost is acquired. What happened is acquired by a related party. Now it is an initial cost 200 million plus a variable cost of 60% of the net profit. So at the end, okay, at the end you got 800 million. Much higher than the fair value. The fair value only cost you 500 million. Now you're paying 800 million. Okay, so there's a question. And also the interest paid to the bank D, purpose of the finance of the land, it is important. Okay, because it has to satisfy your general deduction rule first. Whether it is incurred in the production of chargeable profit. Okay. Then you need to think what happened to the security. It is now secured by A Limited, the overseas deposit. Now, this is the introduction only. You're just copying from the facts. So don't expect you got too much marks. Maybe 1 mark, You just analyze the question, what it is about, whether you can actually deduct the interest expense, whether the land cost will be challenged by IRD. Okay, 1 mark. Then you quote the general taxation rule, which is the general deduction rule first. Okay, so this is the time for copying. Okay, I assume everybody can copy the general deduction rule under 16.1. Now, it's a deduction of any outgoing expenses to the extent incurred in the production of chargeable profits. So it's a matter of whether it is, okay, in the production of chargeable profit. Now, it is also asking you, if not, okay, if it is not subject to chargeable profits, then what happened is section 17, okay, question bracket 1b, it is all about not incurred in the production of chargeable profit. Okay, copy. Okay, that's what I suggest you. And don't make it up, just copy. Okay, you probably get 1 mark. Then interest deduction, okay, the interest deduction, it is a formula. There must be a formula for interest deduction. The first thing is the general deduction rule first. Whether the loan is, okay, is borrowed for the production of chargeable profits, then you have to satisfy any of the conditions under section 16 bracket 2. Then what happened? You are also subject to an additional restriction under section 16.2 bracket capital A and capital B. Then you explain, okay, then you explain to the marker the money, whether it is borrowed, okay. Now, what happened is you can see that it is selling, after the redevelopment, it is actually selling the flats, okay. It's selling the flats for profits. So the flats are actually trading stock. So the first thing is you are borrowing from a bank, okay. Section 16 bracket 2 bracket D. Then the flats, okay, the flats are trading stock because you're immediately selling, and then you probably, okay, it's for trading. So it is section 16 bracket 2 bracket E. Is it okay? Now what happened is, okay, you are subject to the section 16.2a. We call this secure loan test. Okay, it is a secure by deposit made by the borrower or is associated, and interest income from the deposit is not chargeable to tax. Now recalling the case, it is actually using A Limited overseas deposits. Okay, the first thing you can apply to the case is A Limited and C Limited, they are associated. And the second thing is the overseas deposit. The deposit interest is not subject to tax. Then we can say that section 2A applies. Okay, section 2A applies. Now, some of you just quote the tax case, copy section 2A, finished. It's not okay. You need to start, as I said, you need to start a new paragraph, applying to the case, okay? Saying A Limited and C Limited are associated. Then you should say that it is actually using A Limited overseas deposit as security. And this deposit is not generating taxable profits. Okay? Therefore, the interest expense shall not be deducted. Or you can say shall not be reduced. Okay, shall be reduced. Then it is telling that section 2B, if you can't use 2A, then you use section 2B. But in this case, okay, it's not necessary. You've already done section 2A, you apply that. Okay, so section 2B is not about interest flow back test. So this is not relevant. Is it okay? Now for the land, the problem with the land is you are purchasing a land much higher, okay, in a much higher cost, okay? It's in a very excessive cost as compared to the fair value. Then you will say, okay, this is not deductible. It's not good enough, okay? What happened is you need to quote the tax rule again, copy, okay? Don't make it up, just copy. Section 16.1a. Transactions enter into sole and dominant purpose to obtain a tax benefit. Now what happened is if IRD, okay, could prove this, okay, it could actually tax on the transaction. Now the tax benefit, okay, we have a new case as compared to the very old ones, okay, old questions. So you have to update your notes, okay. We have Tai Hing cotton mill case. It is about tax liability to tax or not under appropriate hypothesis, whether it is under normal terms, okay, whether it is normal. So apply again, I always like this, apply to the case, okay. You don't have to be scared, okay. You can write these words, okay, these words 20 times in your answer booklet is fine, okay. The examiner marker like these words. So apply to the case. Land cost is the total land cost 800 million, far exceeding the market value of 500. Then IRD could consider not expenses incurred in the production of profits. Why? Because the 300 million more, okay, the excessive ones, okay, IRD may cost that, okay, this is not relevant, it's not producing the profits. 500 million is good enough. Then what happened is you need, okay, think about this is 17 marks, okay, 70 marks is not good enough to just say, okay, this is not, okay, this is too excessive. Then what happened, you need to say, under the IRD, what happened, it would prove that A limited and C limited, the first thing is they are associated, okay, they are associated. What do you mean by associated? Meaning that some of them are related parties. They're related parties, and they are actually related parties for the economic terms, okay, in the Tai Hing case. And now the 800 million is not in arm's length, okay, it is unrealistic, it is excessive, okay. So what happened is IRD may restrict the amounts to the market value 500 million, okay. This is the consequence. Now always remember, for general anti-avoidance, okay, you need to tell the examiner what IRD would prove, okay, before it can use the anti-avoidance provision. What would IRD prove? The second is, after it has proved the facts, then what are the consequences? What are the consequences to the taxpayer? You cannot just say, okay, IRD can succeed using this anti-avoidance. Finish. It's not good enough, okay. You need to tell the marker, okay, that what are the consequences after that. Now this is a case only talking about general anti-avoidance. Remember the specific anti-avoidance provision, okay. Remember the transfer pricing section 20. Remember the utilization of tax losses section 61B, okay. What happened is, after the specific anti-avoidance, IRD can still use the general anti-avoidance to tackle the schemes. Correct? Okay? So this question is not a very good demonstration because it strictly asks the general anti-avoidance. Okay? But if in the exam you are talking about the specific anti-avoidance, remember to use the last sentence as, if IRD cannot succeed with the specific anti-avoidance, it can still use the general anti-avoidance provision to tackle. This is 1 mark. Okay? If he can use, okay, imagine if he cannot use section 20, transfer pricing, okay, anti-avoidance, he can still use section 61 and 61A. And you don't have to elaborate any further, because the question normally the focus is on section 20, the specific anti-avoidance provision. Now for the loan interest, okay, remember that we had actually recorded this, okay. We have just said that it is, okay, the interest shall not be deducted. But remember, this is a tricky rule, okay. This is not the C limited borrow a lot of money, okay, borrow a lot of money, and as I call this, the interest should be 50 million, the interest expense. Okay, now the interest income is only 10 million. So the interest expense shall be reduced. What do you mean by shall be reduced? It is not equal, okay? It is not equal. It is not 15 million interest expense and 15 million income, right? It's not equal. So you need to say that, okay, maybe the interest expense shall be reduced. So what parts of the interest expense shall also still be could be deducted. So this is one point, okay? There's a one point. It is realistic because imagine you borrow 20 million, for example, okay? But you only use 10 million as your deposit, and the deposit doesn't generate any taxable income. Then you don't have to reduce, you don't have to say, okay, the 20 million interest expense shall not be deducted. No, okay? Do you understand? So it's not equal because you did not borrow that much, okay? You borrowed that much, but you did not actually use the same amount as security, okay? You borrow 20 million, but you only use 10 million as your security. Then you don't have to saying that the interest expenses have to be restricted. You can only reduce half. Half of the interest can still be deducted. Now, for question 4, okay? Now, before we go to question 4, count your points for question 3, okay? Because there are 2 parts, and it's just say 70 marks, okay? So you are supposed to answer 20 marks, 20 points, okay? Small points will do. Not just giving me like half a page for 70 marks is not good enough. So the first thing is you quote the tax rule, apply to the case. What happened is the critical issue, IRD, what happened to the anti-avoidance provision, the consequence, something like that. Now for question 4, advise C Limited as to whether the underwriting profit from the residential building in Guangzhou will chargeable to profit tax in Hong Kong. Now it is about profit. Okay, it is about profit tax. Okay, if I were you, I will quote section 14.1. I will. Okay, why not? It's charging section. If you don't pass the charging section, then the income, you don't have to say anything. Now, what happened is chargeable to profit tax. It is all about income. Okay, so what happened is underwriting. You quote the Kwang Mao case. Now, what happened is C Limited entered into the underwriting agreement in PRC, okay? But the activities held like marketing, sales promotion, sales presentation are all held in Hong Kong. Therefore, it is a Hong Kong source. Okay, what happened is Kwang Mao is exactly the same. It's exactly the same. What happens? The flats are in Guangzhou. Okay, but the marketing activities, all the buyers are Hong Kong buyers. Okay, what have you done? The marketing and the sales are all done in Hong Kong. So the underwriting income, okay, the underwriting income is not about the profits of selling the properties. It's only the underwriting income is sourced in Hong Kong. Now, it is telling us that if the underwriting profit were chargeable, if, okay, it is, the examiner is using an assumption, if. What happened if the underwriting profit were chargeable to profit tax? Whether the exchange loss, okay, 600,000 was an allowable deduction. Now, the first thing is, again, deduction is general deduction rule, okay? Then you consider whether you have any specific deduction rule. Now, for section 16, okay, in the production of chargeable profits, now as said in A, okay, you don't have to A anyway, it's already written for you. The underwriting profits were chargeable to profit tax. Therefore, okay, the exchange loss is related to the chargeable income. So it is revenue in nature. So applying to the case, it is the payment of the guarantee sum. Okay, so it is part of the underwriting arrangement. Since the underwriting profit are profitable, okay, it's still taxable, then the expenses related shall be deductible. And there is no further general and there's no further specific deduction rule. Now you can recall this, okay? Part A is section 14.1, okay? It is about a case. Underwriting profits is about qual mile case. And for B part, it is about deduction rule. Deduction rule is always the general deduction rule first. Now for question 5. Okay? Question 5, analyze the salary tax position of Mr. X in relation to his salary under contract A and B. Now what happened is contract A and B, what's the difference? It is telling that the contract A, okay, it is about the Hong Kong services, okay, that rendered in Hong Kong. So you can say that it is all about Hong Kong employment. Okay, it is all about Hong Kong employment. There is nothing to tell you that it is not Hong Kong employment. Okay, because according to the facts, okay, the person, Mr. X, is actually employed, okay, employed by the Hong Kong company. Now for contract B, okay, for contract B. Now the contract B is only governing the duties. It is still under the Hong Kong employment. Okay, it is still under the Hong Kong employment. But he can claim exemption under section 1A bracket B. Okay, render all services all outside Hong Kong. Okay, not in PRC. Okay. Now for contract A, there's nothing to argue. There's nothing to argue. Your service, it is a Hong Kong employment. If you really want, you can quote the IPN 10. There's no harm quoting that. Okay? Although it is not in the answer, it's not the argument point. Okay? You can still quote the IPN 10. Okay, it is a Hong Kong employment because he is actually employed by a Hong Kong employer. Now, the services are all rendered in Hong Kong. There's nothing that you need to argue. It's all taxable. Now for the contract B, okay, for the contract B, you can telling me that it is governed only the duties that are actually performed in mainland. So all the services are supposed to be done in PRC outside Hong Kong. Then you could actually claim section 8, 1A, bracket 1A and bracket B. Okay? For Hong Kong employment, what else can you claim? What else can you claim? You can claim 60 days rule. Can you claim that? Not in this case. I don't think Mr. X, okay, Mr. X, although he's actually working in PRC, but I think he has family and there's a place of abode in Hong Kong. Okay, what else can he claim? Maybe he can claim double taxation relief, okay, section 8(1)(ac). But let's talk about applying to the case first. What happened is contract A, there's nothing to argue. It's about contract B. You are claiming that all services are all outside Hong Kong. Now, the IRD may question, okay, what do you mean by all services? All services meaning all the reporting, all the work are done in PRC. But imagine in the case, it is saying that it is required, Mr. X required to report the chairman, okay, of A Limited. And A Limited, the chairman is in Hong Kong. Okay, so you can actually say as the managing director of C Limited, okay, he may take part in the marketing activities in Hong Kong. Correct? So you probably say that, okay, ILD may challenge you, okay, to claim section 8(1)(a) bracket B, render services all outside Hong Kong, meaning 100%. Okay, meaning 100%, you need to ensure that 100% of the work, okay, are performed outside Hong Kong. If you could not prove that, there's no point arguing. There's no point arguing. Correct? So, probably IRD will challenge you, okay, will challenge you. If you could not claim this, too bad, you need to tax. Okay, too bad, it's taxable. Now, he only spent 45 days in PRC only, okay? Most of the days in Hong Kong. Okay, what happened? Can he claim double taxation relief? Okay, then you need to go further. Okay, my goodness, you need to go further. We need to talk about DIPN 44, things like that, okay? But not for how many marks? Okay, maybe you can actually telling me, okay, whether he has actually paid PRC tax, but there is not enough facts. Why? It's only talking about 45 days in PRC that year. Okay, in order to pay the PRC tax, you have to go over 183 days in any 12 months period. Okay, we have changed. Okay, it's not in a calendar year, in any 12 months period. Have we got any data for 12 months? We don't have here. We're not sure. Okay, you can just say, if you really want, okay, you can just say if. Okay, if he stay in PRC more than, I don't know, 183 days in any 12 months period, then he would probably has paid the PRC tax. Then he could actually claim the tax credit or the double taxation relief. Now, for the IRD, okay, IRDs can still use what? Okay, the weapon of Section 61A, okay, the general anti-avoidance provision to tackle any scheme if he can actually prove the sole and dominant purpose to obtain a tax benefit. Okay, if he could actually cause the arrangement where we call dual employment contract. Dual employment contract meaning that you are splitting the contract into two parts. Okay, one in Hong Kong and one outside Hong Kong. What happened is all the work that you've done outside Hong Kong, okay, all the work you've done outside Hong Kong, you want to claim all services rendered outside Hong Kong, okay? But IRD may tackle that. Then you got the B part, okay? Again, share option only for 3 marks. So don't need to write too much, okay? What happened is you write, okay, the share option should be taxable, okay? Of course, we got a typing error, okay? 2008 to 2009, okay? Should be taxed in the year of exercise, even after the termination of the employment. Okay, may I ask, do you have an option? Do you have an option you can tax, okay? You can tax at the end of the employment? Do we have an option? Do we have an option that we can actually choose? Okay, why not we tax first? Okay, before we leave the company. Oh, you only got 50-50 chance. Yes, no. Okay, or not sure. Okay, okay. Now, read the question carefully. It's about termination of employment. It's not about departure from Hong Kong. Okay? For departure from Hong Kong, you got an option. For termination of employment, you don't have an option. Okay? So what happened? You only tax at the time of exercise. Okay? In the year of exercise. It can make a difference. So even after the termination of employment, okay, he can still be taxed. Is that okay? Now, this is a case that I don't think it is not too difficult, but I can tell you that some of the students could not pass this case, okay, because they have no arguments. They have no arguments in this case. Otherwise, I don't think it is a very difficult. It is a pretty straightforward. Okay, let me go a bit further for 5 minutes before we take a break. Okay, now again, recalling what happened to the case after the May 2010, you need to be very sure. Now in the exam, okay, around 50% profit tax. If you tell me that you are not revising profit tax, there's no point going into the exam. Okay, probably around 50 marks will be on the profit tax. Okay, and around 30 marks would be on the salary tax. Now, what happened to all my students? I don't know about you guys, okay? Most of my students, they like salary tax because it's easier, okay? It's more relevant to you, okay? You probably calculate your salary tax, okay, yourself. So it will be much more relevant. Now, some of my students are like this, okay? They like salary tax, so they will choose questions on salary tax first. Okay, but they don't like questions on husband and wife. I don't know, probably they are single, they're not married, okay? So they don't like husband and wife, okay? And they don't like personal assessment. Oh my goodness, okay? So then they would skip, they would rather go back to profit tax, okay? So probably it's the same with you guys. And then you get extra questions like property tax, stamp duty, tax administration, around 20%. Okay? Now again, I can record this like, for example, income or expenses. Again, profit tax income, you need to be very sure when to quote section 14, when you should quote section 15. Okay? Deeming provisions are very common, okay, are very common. But most of all, I think the most common would be royalties. Okay, under all the deeming provisions, what kind of questions would gain you more marks? Royalties. Okay. Now for profit tax expenses, always talk about general deduction rule first and then specific deduction rule. Now, the third point is very important. Give the whole set of answer. What do you mean by whole set? If I were the marker, okay, I will count your answer, count the marks. For example, royalties, okay, for example, royalties. Normally, I don't know, 6 marks, 7 marks, something like that, okay? It is expected to give a whole set, meaning that the first thing, the scope of charge, whether you need to pay tax on the royalties income, okay? The first thing you need to prove is normally there's always a non-resident, the NR. Okay? The second one is normally it's not about music. It's not about films. So it's always section 15(1)(b). Now of course we still have section 1BA. Okay? This is the scope of charge. Then the tax adjustment, 30% or 100%. Okay, you need to be very, very clear. Okay, for 100%, it's always about associated company, okay, and whether the IP has been used in Hong Kong. Tax administration, withholding obligation, okay, section 20A or section 20B. Is this an agent or it is a normal Hong Kong resident? Then Amazon case, okay, Amazon case is about apportionment. Okay, apportionment, whether it is used in Hong Kong or partly used outside Hong Kong. Then, after marking this, I will give you full mark. If I can see that, oh, there's one section missing, there wouldn't be any full marks. So, I always call this a whole set of answers, something like this. Okay? Now, then car marks, as I said, okay, you are expected to give more minor points. Okay, tax computation is a trap. Okay, I mean Hong Kong students, they love calculations. Okay, they love calculations. I must get the assessable income correct. Okay, and probably 99% you cannot. Okay, after your effort for 20 minutes, you can still not get the assessable income. Okay, and that is the correct. Okay, that is probably the right thing. Okay, now for a 10 marks calculation question, okay, I expect 3 marks question. 3 marks for the computation. Okay, so you expect 7 out of 10 for explanation, meaning I don't mean the marks, exactly the marks, I mean the percentage. You expect 30% to be the computation and 70% to be the explanation. And I always tell my students, if you concentrate on the computation and without the explanation, you fail. If you have done all the explanation, okay, and you didn't calculate the assessable income, you are probably smarter than the ones that is vice versa. Okay, you will probably pass because your explanation will be probably right. Okay, so what happened is I always do cross referencing. Okay, any adjustment that I make in the tax computation, I will have a cross referencing. Okay, like number 1, notes 1, I will have right, and normally I couldn't finish. Okay, even in my exams, okay, I couldn't finish assessable income. And I don't normally calculate the progressive rates. There's no point, okay? There's no point. Everybody got the progressive rates table anyway. Everybody can do the multiplying, okay? So there's no point. And probably your assessable income is not correct anyway. So there's no point doing the progressive rates, okay? It's not right anyway. So the explanation are the most important. Okay? Now, we need to take a break, okay, for the December 2010. Okay, so if you have any questions, okay, about the previous slides, you can ask me. It's after some of the techniques, okay, I need to share with you about last diet. Okay, it is quite important to recap some of the last diet point to actually scrape off some of the points that you don't actually need to revise because they have already been asked, okay, from last diet. So probably the focus would not be too much, okay, for this diet. So now what happened is again, okay, we will go to the question page. Okay, we will go to the question page. Now, we have tried out one diet, okay? We have tried out one diet, and I suppose you can actually try for every diet. The first thing is you need to be able to identify the section, the DIPN, the cases, okay, for the question only. Okay, for the question only. Okay, let's see if you can do it. Now, advise Joseph of the tax implication, okay, of the import ovens and grillers from Brazil and the engagement of the consultants from Brazil to assist with the installation and regular repairs. Okay, so you need to talk about some of the plants and machinery. Okay, some of the plant and machinery. Now, for the plant and machinery, you expect the first thing is you have the depreciation, allowances. Now, I don't think the ovens and grillers will be the computers, okay? So, I don't think it will be a prescribed fixed asset. Now, for the engagement of the consultants from Brazil to assist with the installation and regular repairs. Okay, the consultants, okay, you get a consultancy fee, okay, section 16.1, okay. What happens if it is a non-deductible, okay? Non-deductible will be section 17. Now, it's all about expenses. Now, for examinations, okay, it's always asked about tax implications, so be a bit careful. Now, in this case, okay, it is about plants and machinery and some of the expenses. Then you need to talk about tax implication is very simple, all about profit tax. But what happens if the questions are based on property and shares? What are tax implications? You will talk about profit tax and stamp duty. Okay, so be really careful. It's this trap. Okay, tax implication is not always just profit tax. Sometimes it could be about stamp duty. Remember, I told you a whole set of answer. So you need to talk about stamp duty as well. Now, also any other profit tax issue relating to commencement of business. Okay, at the end I will tell you that it's a very common two areas that you need to be very familiar. One is commencing the business. Okay, commencing the business. When you start a business, what kind of expenses, okay, you will incur? Will you incur any stamp duty? And the most important area would be this termination of the business. Two parts: commencing of business, termination of business. There are many tax issues. Okay, for commencement of business, okay, some of the tax issues are much lesser. For the disposal of a business or termination of a business, there are loads of tax issues. Okay, I will recap this for you. Okay, later on. But always, okay, you can see that it's a very common question. Either in FE, either in module, you will see that termination. Termination, we got so many issues. Okay, both profit tax and both under stamp duty as well. Okay, now also then you see this commencement. Always about section 16. Now, it is about profit tax issues. Okay, it's not about tax implication. If I were you, okay, I will only focus on profit tax. But sometimes if it is saying that's about tax implication on the commencement of business, I will talk about stamp duty as well. Okay, I will tell you what kind of issues. Now, for B, advise Joseph what reporting obligation. Reporting obligation, Okay, both profit tax and salary tax. Why saying this? Okay, we are talking about section 51 and section 52. Okay, some students will ask me, okay, if I satisfy section 52, does that mean that I don't have to satisfy section 51? Is this true? Do you have to only satisfy either? Okay, if I satisfy section 52, do I have to satisfy section 51? Or both? Either? You're not sure? Oh dear. Okay, again, yes, no, none of the above. Okay, it's not multiple choice. Okay, now section 51. Okay, good question. Okay, section 51. Then I ask you, okay, if you start a business, okay, after you satisfy section 52, does that mean that you need to satisfy section 51 as well? Okay, you have already satisfied section 52. Okay, does that mean that you still have to satisfy section 51? What's the difference? Imagine, okay, imagine you are the employer. Okay, you are the employer. Okay, you need to pay profit tax, correct? Okay, you need to tell the IRD. Okay, you got tax to pay. Okay, I need to pay tax. Okay, my company has to pay tax. You need to satisfy section 51. Then what happens if you employ somebody? Okay, you're the boss. You're the boss. Wow. Okay, you are employing somebody. You are the employer. Okay, you still have to satisfy section 52. Then you have to satisfy both. Okay, satisfying section 52 does not mean that it allows you to escape from section 51. Okay, so the question meaning that if you start a business, okay, if you run a business, don't start a business, you run a business, okay, section 51 you have to satisfy. Okay, you need to tell IRD, you need to file the tax return, you need to say when I'm going to commence my business, when I am going to close my business. Then if I employ any employee, I mean as a business I don't have to employ anybody, okay, but if I employ any employees, then I have to satisfy the employer's obligation as well. Okay? So you need to be really clear. You need to be very, very sure what's going on. Okay? That's why you need to know the final tip session. Okay? Maybe I need to record earlier. Okay? Now for question 2. Joseph noted that he had incurred substantive costs in launching advertising campaign in Hong Kong. Advise whether the costs are deductible. Okay, so it is again about advertising expenses. Okay, expenses meaning section 16. Okay, I almost got confused. Okay, back to the general deduction rule. Do we have a specific deduction rule for advertising expenses? Did you record this? I don't think so. Okay, but only what happened is normally advertising expenses, okay, you will spend these expenses before you start the business. So you need to record this whether it is a pre-commencement expense. Then advise Joseph as whether the fees incurred in traveling to Shanghai, okay, and Macau to explore business opportunities would be deductible. Deduction rules again, okay. So, section 16(1). The critical issue is whether you can incur in the production of chargeable profit. If you go to Shanghai, okay, if you go to Macau, chargeable income. Would that be chargeable income? You need to think about that. So you need probably argument. So don't be surprised, okay? Somebody will tell me, okay, oh my goodness, section 16(1), again and again, 4 times. Okay, I must be wrong in the exam. You're not. Okay, you need to be very clear. Okay, because okay, what happened is if those who are just copying the tax rule, the general deduction rule, then you probably have copied 4 times, and you will be very, very nervous. Okay, what happened? I copied 4 times. Okay, or sometimes you copy once and then refer to the above, even worse. Okay, but the problem is the differences are meaning that you got arguments. Okay, you're applying to different facts, so you need to argument will gain you marks. Now for question 3. Advise Joseph of the tax implication of the relevant income received by New Happy Inn and J. Co. when they licensed the right to use the trade name and the secret recipe to the overseas investors. Now, it must be royalties. Now, but you need to think about whether it is a Hong Kong company receiving royalties or an NR. It's different. Okay, if it is a Hong Kong company receiving royalties, then what would you use? It's already on the screen. It's on the slide, but never mind. Okay, section 14.1. Correct? Okay, for Hong Kong, okay, section 14.1. Because you are carrying business in Hong Kong, remember your charging section. But if you are NR, non-residents, okay, receiving the royalties, this is under section 15. Different. Okay? You're talking about your charging section, or you are talking about your deeming provisions. It makes a difference. Now, what is JCO tax position if investors in Hong Kong pay JCO for the rights to use the formula in Hong Kong to manufacture and export the sauce to customers for Japan? Okay, so you need to think about whether you need to apportionment, and again you need to think about whether it is a Hong Kong company, whether the intellectual property used in Hong Kong or not. Now for question 4. A customer was injured, while dining at the restaurant and took legal actions against New Happy Inn, for negligence. The case was settled out of court and New Happy Inn agreed to pay 1 million as compensation. Advise whether the payment is deductible. The 5th time. Oh no, we are copying the 5th time. It is about compensation payment. It's not about compensation income, it's about payment. So you need to consider whether it is a capital or revenue revenue or not. Capital or revenue. Then Joseph required funds to finance the expansion of his restaurant business in Hong Kong. His uncle in Brazil agreed to lend him $5 million US. He was also able to obtain a loan from the local financial institution. Advise the deductibility of interest payment. Where is our formula? Our formula is this one first, 6th time. Right? Correct? Now, then we know, lots of about deduction. We go back to our case. Now, Joseph Chan moved to Brazil, 20 years ago to work in the family restaurant business. The restaurant specialized in Brazilian barbecues. During this time, he invented his own special barbecue sauce. This was used exclusively in his father's restaurant, known as Happy Inn. Last year, his father passed away. He closed down the business. not in Hong Kong, okay, closed down his business in Brazil and returned to Hong Kong. This is background information, nothing to do about your questions. Okay, it's telling you why he's coming back into Hong Kong. Now, on his way back to Hong Kong, Joseph spent a few weeks in London visiting his cousin. His cousin, who is a lawyer, recalled the delicious barbecue sauce at Happy Inn and recommended that Joseph should take necessary legal procedures to register his secret recipe and formula. Okay, Joseph accepted his advice, undertook the necessary legal registration procedure, and registered his recipe in country X. Okay, so this is now there's an intellectual property, okay, which is father's recipe. Now registered not in Hong Kong, outside Hong Kong. Okay, registered outside Hong Kong. The legal owner of the intellectual property is J. Co., a company incorporated country X. So the company is actually owning the father's recipe, okay, registered outside Hong Kong. And the shareholders are Joseph and members of the Chen's family. Now, once Joseph returned to Hong Kong, he set up his own restaurant, Happy Inn. He imported very expensive special ovens and grillers from Brazil. So this is from overseas. Now, if we record this is question 1. So remember, this is the ovens and grillers where we can claim depreciation allowance. He also engaged a special consultant from the Brazil to assist the installation of the ovens. Now, so you need to consider the consultants, okay? Whether you need to capitalize or you can actually expense, and whether it is actually, you can actually deduct. So it is also about question 1. Okay, so you need to say 1. The consultant also visited Hong Kong on a regular basis to inspect the ovens and conduct of regular repairs. Now, Joseph's restaurant business was very successful. It became a popular spot for expatriates, okay, living in Hong Kong. They found his barbecue sauce very unique and tasty. Over time, it was also regarded as one of the tourist favorites in Hong Kong. There's nothing to do with your question, okay? So in order to lure the local customers, Joseph modified his recipe and invented a new sauce to cater the taste of the local residents. He also registered the new secret recipe to safeguard the intellectual property rights. So, furthermore, he registered the new name of trade, okay? The trade name of New Happy Inn. So this registration took place in Hong Kong. He incorporated a company called New Happy Inn in Hong Kong to own the trade name as well. So this is now the new recipe. And also the new name. Okay, as you recall. So this is also about the, okay, in Hong Kong. So it is different from the father. Okay, this is different from the father. So if you can recall this is question 3. Okay, this is question 3. And also the father's recipe would be, okay, would be question 3 as well. We go back. So some overseas investors, okay, learn about the popularity, okay, of the New Happy Inn and its famous barbecue sauces. They would like to set up similar restaurant business in their own jurisdictions, and thus they would like to obtain the license to use the trade name. So, and the old and new recipe. So this is all about question 3. Okay, so this is, okay, licensing to overseas. So you probably get a royalty. As the business grew, okay, Joseph traveled to Shanghai and Macau to investigate whether he should set up branches in these cities. So this is all about traveling expenses. Okay, if you recall, question 2, and it is about 2B. There's nothing more. So we got 1, we got 2, we got 3. What happened to 4? There's nothing telling me about 4. Okay, so that's why you can see the question is giving you more facts. Okay, in question 4. So there's nothing to recall in the case. Is that correct? Okay, so again, we only need to read once. Okay, we only need to read once, and I can recall the case again. There's nothing you need to recall. Okay, you don't need to read again about the father. Okay, there's nothing to read about the father. There's nothing to read how successful is the business. Okay, so you only focus on some of the paragraphs only. Okay, and you can actually see for the royalties, okay, there are actually 3 paragraphs skipping around. Okay, so you need to be really careful. Now we go back to our PPT. Okay, first question, the import of ovens and grillers from Brazil and the engagement of the consultants. Okay, now ovens and grillers, okay, of course, okay, capital expenditure. Okay, you cannot actually deduct. Okay, so capital expenditure are not allowable under section 17 bracket 1C. Okay, bracket 1, bracket C. You don't have this. Is it okay? You got the slides in front, okay, of your pack. Now, remember capital gain and capital expenditure. Don't quote the wrong section. What is the section for capital gain? Question 14, right? Okay, 14, thank you. Okay, section 14. Then you say capital expenditure is not deductible, section 17, 1C. Don't just quote section 17, it's not good enough, 1C. Okay, it's not deductible, but you can put into the pooling system. Okay, you can actually claim in your initial allowance 60% and your annual allowance 20%. Okay, now the installation. Okay, the installation you cannot expense into the income statement. Why? Because I think according to your accounting standard, wherever you install your fixed asset, okay, the installation cost should be capitalized. Okay, part of your capital expenditure. So the capitalized amount actually eligible for depreciation allowances as well. Now for depreciation allowance, I think you've got several questions, okay, before in the exam. Okay, you need to be quite familiar. Okay, especially when about high purchase. Okay, you need to know how to display depreciation about high purchase. And also you need to remember how to do the depreciation allowances when you dispose your assets. When you dispose your asset, how are you going to treat your balancing allowances and your balancing charge? Okay. Now for hiring the consultants, okay, the consultants, it is whether deductible or not. Okay, depends. Okay, the problem is if you are telling me the reason why you are hiring this consultant is going to advise you about the business, how it is going to carry on, then it could be deductible. Okay, it could be deductible. Why? Because the business would generate taxable income, On the other hand, if the hiring consultants, okay, is related to the installation of the plants and equipment, then it should not be. It should be actually attributable to the capital installation. Now, this is tricky, okay? You cannot just give one reason. Imagine you hire the consultants for a lump sum, okay? You're giving him $1 million, okay? It doesn't mean $1 million just on installation on plant and machinery. Normally you've got several things, okay? You hire him for advice, you hire him for the installation, you hire him for the repairs, okay? It's telling you in the case. So you will probably, need to apportion. You need to apportion, the part on the capital expenses on the plant and machinery, not deductible. But if it is relevant to the business, how it is carrying on, then it is deductible. If this is about the repairs, the repair expenses are deductible. So you need to be really careful. And also, you need to talk about the pre-commencement expenses, What do you mean by pre-commencement of expenses? Meaning that, normally when you start a business, you need to rent a place, you need to hire staff, and there's no income yet, there's no income yet. So you probably need to pay the salary, need to pay the rental. Are these expenses deductible? Are these expenses deductible? Then normally you need to think, you also need to pay maybe advertising expenses, you probably need to pay the electricity, you need to pay the water bills, you need to pay the rates, you need to pay a lot of things, to start a business before the income actually comes. Now what happens is for pre-commencement expenses, normally is not deductible. They are not deductible because of section 16(1), meaning not incurred in the production of chargeable profits. But, you write the first sentence first. But in common practice, what do you mean by common practice? Common practice means IRD normal practice. They would allow you, to deduct revenue expenses. Some of the revenue expenses such as salaries, such as rental, where these expenses were actually incurred in that year of assessment as the same as the income when they arrive in the same year of assessment. So it was saying that strictly revenue expenses are not deductible, not incurred in the production of chargeable profit. So it is about section 17(1)(b). It's not incurred in the production of chargeable profits, but under the common practice, IRD practice. Where is the section? We don't have the section. It's about IRD practice, common practice. The salary and rental are deductible, because they are revenue nature incurred in the same basis year, the first basis year as the income. And you would probably ask me, where are all these common practices in CLP? Where? You probably can't find them, There are two ways, There are two ways you can learn them. The first way is from me. I can tell you what kind of common practices. There are others, The second one is either you read the past papers, and they will say, under the common practice, blah, 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 blah. There's no section. So you need to do past papers, to recap these common practices. Now for 1B, what kind of obligations, what kind of reporting obligations do you have? Now there are two lists, in your CLP. There is a whole list about section 51. There's a whole list about section 52. And as you recall this, as you recall this, we have 7 marks. Now, are you going to tell me you are all going to write all these two lists out? Then the whole 1,000 students would write the same list in the same format. Now you cannot do this. It doesn't work like this. You need to choose the ones that are most relevant. You need to choose the ones that are most relevant, the most important. Now, in my opinion, section 51 bracket 2, this is one of the most important. Why? Because you need to notify the commissioner if there are any chargeable income, and the time limits will be not more than 4 months after the end of the basis period. What happened is you need to submit your audited financial statement, your computation, and other documents. Be honest, I don't really like this presentation. What I write is I normally write the obligation, section 51, bracket 2, and I will write the penalty as well. If you don't comply with the obligation, you will get the penalty. Okay? Sometimes the answers will quote the penalty, sometimes they don't. Okay? So if I were you, I will quote. Okay? I will quote. And in my recalling the concept of CLP, I think they actually put together, okay, the section number, okay, of section 51, bracket 2, and the penalty that you will get if you don't comply. Okay? So it is about compliance and consequence of not complying. Then I will choose, okay, I will choose section 51, bracket 4 as well, okay? You can tell the commissioner when is the commencement of the business. And also because you're the employers, okay, in this case, Joseph will employ employees to run the restaurant. So you need to probably, section 52, bracket 2, furnish the remuneration of employees. Again, I will quote the penalties because this is a 7 marks question. And section 52, bracket 4 for the new employees not less later than 3 months. So the compliance is pretty easy. Okay, the compliance is pretty easy. It depends on how many marks. Now be careful, it is talking about reporting obligations. Sometimes, okay, sometimes it doesn't say reporting. Okay, sometimes they will ask you, the question will ask you, what are the taxation administration matters? Sometimes they will ask you what are the administration matters, something like that. Okay, now in this case it's about reporting. Now be careful, sometimes we will call 51C, okay, the bookkeeping records, the tax administration part. Okay, it is very important. So you need to add this. Now for question 2A, okay, for question 2A, it is about the cost of advertising campaign in Hong Kong. So you need to advise Joseph whether the costs are deductible. Okay, advertising costs before the commencement is not incurred in the production of chargeable income, okay, of the assessable profits. Now again, okay, you can actually argue, okay, you can argue with the IRD that if I don't get this advertising campaign, then I won't attract any customers. Okay, so you can actually argue for attracting customers, okay, once open to generate taxable income. Therefore, you need to actually compromise with the commissioner. Okay, you need to compromise with the IRD. So there's a gray area here. Okay, depends on what kind of reasons. Okay, depends on what kind of reasons that you are supporting the deduction. Okay, for the commissioner, of course, it will say, okay, this is not incurred for the production of assessable profits because this is a pre-commencement expense. But as the taxpayer, okay, you can say, if I don't have this advertising campaign, who is going to come to my restaurant? So I'm actually attracting the customers to come to my restaurant, so to generate taxable income. So for this 4 marks, you need to say both sides. Okay, you need to argue both sides. Then for the B, okay, advice, okay, to whether the fees incurred traveling Shanghai, okay, and Macau. The worst part would be to explore business opportunities. Explore business opportunity won't gain you any taxable income, okay. So it is probably not deductible, not incurred in the production of chargeable profits. And of course, okay, if this is not 2 marks, okay, if you gives you around another 2 marks for 4 marks, then you need to think, even if I open a branch in Macau, even I open a branch in Shanghai, the income would not be taxable anyway, it's overseas. Okay, it's overseas income, so they won't be taxable.
Now, for question 3A, okay, advise Joseph of the tax implication of the relevant income received by the new Happy Inn and J. Co. when they license the rights to use the training and the secret recipes to the overseas investors. Okay, 15 marks. Wow. Okay, you really need to think about that. Now, for the first thing, okay, you need to say that the relevant income received by the new Happy Inn. New Happy Inn is a Hong Kong business, okay, it's a Hong Kong business. So you need to talk about charging section, section 14.1. At least you need to tell the examiner the three conditions satisfy, okay, maybe satisfy or not, depends, okay. The first thing is you need to quote section 14.1 because it is carrying business in Hong Kong. And the income if made by the new Happy Inn will be sourced in Hong Kong. And the question meaning that whether the source of profit, okay, the critical, okay, for the three conditions, the most critical issue, the most argumentative issue would be whether the profit are located in Hong Kong, meaning the locality of profit, the DIPN 21, okay? And the most important will be the operation test. As I said, you can see in my slide, I just quote Hang Seng Bank and TVBI case. No year needed. Nothing. Okay? Of course, there are more cases to support operation test. It's not relevant. I choose the easiest. Okay? I choose the easiest cases to write. Then the source of royalty income should be determined by the place of acquisition and granting the license of the right. Okay, you need to record this. Okay, New Happy Inn has actually owned the recipe, the new recipe. Okay, if it grants, okay, if it grants the acquisition, grants the license for the right to use, then all source in Hong Kong, all source in Hong Kong. Now, applying to the case, okay, applying to the case, the trade name is called New Happy Inn. The trade name is developed in Hong Kong. Why it is developed in Hong Kong? The operation is in Hong Kong. The operation of the restaurant is in Hong Kong, okay? Now, for operation test, there are three things you need to quote. The first thing is Hang Seng Bank case, TVBI case. Everybody knows that. The second one is what the taxpayer has done to earn the profit. What the taxpayer has done, okay? In this case, the operation is running New Happy Inn, okay? It is running a business in Hong Kong. You don't have to write the whole sentence. You just have to write what, W-H-A-T, what the taxpayer has done to earn the profit. And the third word means where the taxpayer has earned the profit, where the operation has been done. Now, the restaurant is in Hong Kong. The granting of the license is in Hong Kong. Everything will be negotiated, even negotiated outside Hong Kong, it doesn't really matter, okay? The license is in Hong Kong. The granting will be in Hong Kong, okay? Therefore, the royalty income should be sourced in Hong Kong. Then if you tell me, okay, if you tell me section 15, oh dear, okay? You will be completely wrong, okay? Because why? New Happy Inn is not a non-resident. It's not a non-resident. We are using the basic rule. We are talking about Hong Kong company, a Hong Kong business. Back to section 14. Now the new recipe. The new recipe is invented in Hong Kong, registered in Hong Kong. Everything is in Hong Kong. Therefore, it's Hong Kong source. Now, there's two differences. What happened to the father? Okay, the father recipe. Okay, you can call father recipe if you want. Okay, but I call this old recipe. The old recipe, the legal owner is not in Hong Kong. Okay, it's called J Company. Okay, J Company. The owner is not carrying business in Hong Kong. It's in J Company. The royalty by J Company NR still has to be subject to deeming provisions under section 15.1b. Under section 15.1b. If I were you, I would probably say J Company is not carrying business in Hong Kong. Therefore, section 14 doesn't apply. But, okay, it is still receiving royalties income. Okay, Therefore, it is taxed under the deeming provision under Section 1B. It's nothing to do with music, nothing to do with films. Section 1B is fine. But remember, okay? But remember the case. Even if it is still receiving royalties, remember the overseas investors intend to use the recipe outside Hong Kong. Okay? If you use the intellectual property outside Hong Kong, do we need to pay Hong Kong tax? Does it have to pay Hong Kong tax? No. The intellectual property means you need the rights to use in Hong Kong. It makes a difference, right? It makes a difference. What happens if the old recipe is used in Hong Kong? You receive the royalties. Do you have to pay tax? Yes. But now the case is telling us the intellectual property for overseas investors. If the recipe would be used outside Hong Kong. Anything to do with Hong Kong tax? No. So we are actually arguing the rights to use in Hong Kong. It's very tricky. This is only the scope, okay? I mean, of course you can copy, okay? You can copy from CLP, but you're not applying. Okay? Probably you will say, oh, this is fall under the deeming provision, therefore it is taxable. Done. Then you will be wrong. Okay? You're not applying because you need to read the question very carefully. If you can even use, you can still extend the answer for 70 marks. If the Hong Kong investors want to use the old recipe in Hong Kong, then it will be a different case, right? The intellectual property will be used in Hong Kong. Difference. Now, for question 3B, okay, what is J company tax position if, oh, this is B part, okay, if the investors in Hong Kong pay J company for the rights to use the formula in Hong Kong and to manufacture, export the source to customers in Japan. Okay, Japan probably doesn't need the source now, okay? Now, but we can say that the section 15(1)(b, because it is used in Hong Kong, so now what happened is section 21A, okay, because the recipe hasn't been owned in Hong Kong before, so withholding tax section 20B, withholding obligation. Pretty tricky, question 3. Okay, 3A answer could be very different as compared to 3B. The key issues, okay, for the answers would be overseas investors and Hong Kong investors. Now, then we have question 4A, okay? Question 4A is about compensation paid, okay? Nothing to do with your case, as we have already analyzed the case. So it is about a person injured in the restaurant, okay? So what happened is you need to distinguish, okay, between revenue and capital. For compensation, there is no specific rules, okay? No specific deduction rule. You just go back to the basic capital and revenue. If it is incurred in the ordinary business to protect the reputation, you want to carry on the business, you want to protect the reputation, then it is revenue. But the argument is, okay, if you want to pay the customer, okay, once and for all for enduring benefit, then it is capital. Meaning that, okay, I give you this lump sum, okay, you cannot claim me anymore, okay. The commissioner may argue this point, okay, you are paying the customer, you cannot claim me anymore, okay, we will settle this, okay, by paying this 1 million, that's it, okay. Then the IRD can say that, oh, this must be capital. Okay, capital means once for all. But for the taxpayer, it wants to deduct, okay, he wants to deduct the expense. So he want to argue, okay, he want to say, okay, let's protect the reputation, Okay, let's protect the reputation. If we don't have the reputation, we can't run the business anymore. We cannot produce the chargeable income anymore. Therefore, it is deductible. Therefore, it is revenue. So you can see two sides. And the last thing is you need to negotiate with IRD. Okay, this is the conclusion. And there's nothing you can say, oh, okay, we expect, okay, taxpayer will win, or we can expect IRD will win. There are not enough facts. And there shouldn't be enough facts because only 2 marks. Right? Correct? Now for 4B, okay, interest payments for uncle, okay, interest payment for uncle and the financial institute. Interest payment to uncle is not deductible, okay? Even if the loan is for the restaurant, it is not deductible. Why? Section 16(2)(c), okay, it is for a non-financial institute interest expense, okay? The interest income is not taxable. Uncle is not paying any tax on the interest income. Then the interest expense shouldn't be deducted, okay, shouldn't be deducted. And the interest payment to local financial institution, okay, Section 16(1), Section 16(2)(d), depends, okay. You can say that's to finance the expansion business in Hong Kong, okay, that would be okay. But if you want to say, okay, expanding in overseas, then it's not deductible. Depends what will you use, okay. This is the argument, okay, under section 16 bracket 1. Is it okay? If you say, okay, I borrow the loan, okay, I borrow the loan, and I'm not using any security, it's not telling you anything, okay. There's no security, nothing, because only 3 marks. It's not telling you anything. So you can just argue, okay, under section 16.1, okay, whether it is expansion overseas or whether it is expansion in Hong Kong. In Hong Kong, fine, okay, because it will be taxable anyway for taxable income. Is it okay? Now the concepts are not very difficult, and you will be surprised that why students will still fail under this case. The problem is you are lack of arguments. Okay, the problem is you don't have enough arguments, and you probably just focus on copying the real tax rules. Okay, the section 16 bracket 1. There's no point that you copy 5 times, it doesn't get you a pass. Okay, it doesn't get you a pass. The problem is you have every question got something that is in gray area where you need to argue with the IRD. Is that okay? Okay, so this is December 2010, so you need to record the short question as well. Now, some of the final techniques that I need to remind you, okay? Now, the first one is consideration of commencement of business and termination. Okay, as I said, okay, well, if you want to commence a business, okay, what kind of profit tax issues would you see? Okay, would you recall? I could only see pre-commencement of expenses as already examined. Stamp duty, okay, stamp duty. Okay, stamp duty, I will say when you incorporate a company, okay, you will probably need to pay capital duty on the share capital. Do you understand what is capital duty? Okay, capital duty is not stamp duty, okay, I can tell you that. Okay, capital duty is when you increase your authorized capital, you need to pay a capital duty. And then by the time, next time when you transfer your Hong Kong shares, you need to pay stamp duty. It's a different thing. Now, for commencement of business, the focus is not on profit tax issues and not on stamp duty. It's on tax administration. It's on tax administration. Why? If you have a new company, you need to do a lot of tax administration work by saying, okay, you need to advise the new person, then you need to pay tax, when you're going to pay tax. If you're employer, when you have reporting obligation, okay? There is a question case on commencement of business, and the whole answer is about tax administration, about 20 months. Quite an old case, okay? So, and also you need to tell the examiner, also you need to do some block extension, even for the filing. For the first year, you need to do the block extension first. Okay, you need to advise him, okay, you need to incorporate your tax computation, you need to incorporate your income statement, your audited financial statement, before you hand into the IRD, or your supporting schedules. Imagine he knows nothing, he just, okay, the person, the taxpayer only knows, okay, he started a business, and he will ask you, okay, what kind of tax issues do I need to address? Is okay? Now, for termination, loads of things, okay? Termination can ask you 20 months, okay? Like what? The first thing is the termination of business is probably you end up by selling your company, okay? The first thing is you need to think, if you sell the business rights, is it taxable? Your business right? No, it's not taxable. Why? It's capital. It's capital, okay? And the second thing is you need to think about, okay, your fixed assets. Your fixed assets. By the time you've terminated your business, everything has to be written off, okay? So you put your plant and machinery, either you sell your plant and machinery, or either you cease, you waive, okay? Then you will have a balancing adjustment, right? You have balancing adjustment. Because by the time you sell your plant and machinery, you've got balancing adjustments. Then you need to think about your inventory. Your inventory has to be written off. Doesn't worth anymore, okay? So the written off will be under your net realizable value, under DIPM 1. It's not very common. Then you need to think about, okay, whether the receivable will be your bad debt. Okay? You got receivables, but your company is terminating and you cannot receive, okay, your receivable. It will be your bad debt, right? So it's section 16 bracket 1D, small d. Then what happens if you sell your property? What happens if you sell your shares? Okay, you got stamp duty issues as well. Even property, you got your balancing adjustment. What happened previously if you have actually claimed full deduction of some of the expenses like prescribed fixed assets? Remember? Okay, then you're selling your computers, what happened? You need to tax a trading receipt. Now for termination, also you got a lot of things like, okay, section 15C, section 15D, okay, big C and big D. Okay, you sell all your fixed asset at a lump sum, okay, or you can say you got post-succession receipts, okay, and payments. How do you treat these payments and receipts? Also, you got loads of tax administration issues, okay, because you're closing the business, right? Okay, you need to tell the IRD, okay, you're ceasing business. If you have employees, you're probably terminating your employees' contract. Okay, you need to tell the IRD about section 52. Loads of issues. What happens if you sell, okay, if you sell all your fixed asset at a lump sum? What happens if you sell your computers, I don't know, your fixed assets for a very low price to your subsidiaries? You're closing down, you need to sell your plant and machineries. Then IRD can tackle you, okay, by calling specific anti-avoidance provision, okay, section 38A and section 38B. Determining the true value, okay, if you sell your fixed asset at a lump sum. Section 38A. Control sales, Section 38B. Loads of issues. Always happen, okay? Termination always appear in FE or appear in module. Then for the point B, okay, as I said, I recall capital gain is section 14. I make sure you quote the correct, okay, the correct section. Okay, the expenditure will be section 17(1)(c). Now, disposal of properties, you need to be really careful, okay? Tax implication. Now, I always tell my students, now if Hong Kong questions, okay, there are not much to ask. Either you do business in properties, either you do properties in shares. Okay, not much business you want to do, okay? So in the FE examination or, I don't know, sometimes module, always talking about buying properties, buying shares. Always talking about this, okay? Now, the key issue is always about disposal, okay? If you purchase the properties, if you purchase the shares, not much profit tax implication, apart from stamp duty. But if you sell the properties, if you sell the shares, there are loads of tax implications. Now, tax implication, as I recall, okay, is about profit tax and stamp duty, both. So you need to think about profit tax, whether it is capital trading. Back to our basic badges of trade. It will be probably your first subject for tax. Okay, badges of trade. Badges of trade, what case would you recall? Nothing? Martin and Morton. I didn't write here, okay, but I probably you know this, okay. Stamp duty heads, okay. What kind of head? Head 1(1), head 1(1)(a). Stamp duty head on shares, head 2. Think about group relief as well. Sometimes they always ask you, you buy property, okay. If Fiona wants to buy a property, will I use my own name to buy the property? Always ask this question. Okay, you can see buy property, loads of options you can do. Okay, I can buy a property under my name. I can use a company. Okay, if I use ETC, I can buy a property. Then what's the difference? Now, what happened is this is a very common topic. Okay, if I use my own name, and I live in that property, what can I claim? Home loan interest, right? Or probably I don't need to finance the property, okay? But anyway, okay, imagine you probably need, okay, in Hong Kong, who can buy a property without mortgage, okay? So home loan interest. But if I want to let out, okay, my property under my name, what tax shall I pay? Property tax. Can I deduct my interest anymore? No. Provided I elect PA. Correct? Provided I elect PA. That's the difference. Okay? If I live in that flat, I will claim home loan interest. But if I let out the property without electing PA, then I cannot deduct the interest. Okay? But if I use a company to buy the property, then what tax would I pay? I will pay profit tax, okay? But remember, there's another sentence. You need to apply exemption under property tax. Do you know this? I don't know if you know this, okay? If you got a property, okay, under a company, you will probably receive 2 returns, okay? A profit tax return and a property tax return. Okay, and then for the property tax return, you just apply the exemption because you have elected to pay under profit tax. Then you need to say that, okay, whether you can deduct any interest. Can you deduct any interest? Under profit tax? Of course. But section 16 bracket 1, are you letting the property If you leave the property vacant, can you still actually claim the interest? No. You are not generating any chargeable income. You remember? Okay? You are not so you can see there are so many options. Okay? There are so many options to buy a property. Correct? If you buy a property and you leave it vacant, okay, can I still claim interest? I leave the property vacant. I buy the property, I leave it vacant. Can I still claim the interest? Depends. It's not no. Why? Once the disposal of the property is trading, then you can claim, you can deduct the interest. Badges of trade, remember? Okay, if I buy the property and I sell it next day, the interest will be deductible. Probably you won't incur any interest anyway for 1 day. Interesting. So watch out for the most updated cases as well. Now, this is not the expected topic list, okay? But some of you tell me that, okay, what shall I do now? I only got 1 month left, okay, to prepare my module to, I don't know, still got loads of things to do, okay? So what happened is I will actually record this, okay? I don't know, somebody will, I don't know, some of you will use the CLP, some of you will use revision notes, some of you will use a book, I don't know, some of you will use, okay? The first thing is I never suggest you got 3 sets of notes in front of you and bring into the examination. Imagine if you want to copy section 14, okay? There are 3 versions now, okay? You got CLP, you got book, you got your notes. Then you will be flicking, okay? Then you will decide in the examination hall which sentence should I copy. That's the problem, okay? Which sentence should I copy? I got three notes, okay? 3 sets of notes. So that's why we always call this critical notes, okay? Critical notes doesn't mean, it is critical, of course, okay? It means that you only need 1 set of notes, okay? You can either summarize yourself or you can do cut and paste, I don't know, something like that, okay? You can highlight, okay? We only need a few sentences for section 14, okay? 1 set. So section 14 you must know, the source of concept you must know, okay? I mean, for the source of concept, it's so easy to guess, okay? Before, last time for FE, manufacturing profit, then I will ask the students, okay, you don't have to revise much of the manufacturing profits, okay? Concentrate on the others, okay? Concentrate on trading, concentrate on service, concentrate on financing. Okay, make sure you have all the key points listed out. Okay, I mean, for example, trading, you got contract effective test. You say effective, what's the difference? Okay, you got the most important case, console trading case, something like that. Okay, all listed out. Okay, in the examination, you only have to do the application. Now for the operation test, as I said, Hang Seng Bank case, TVBI case. For the batches of trade, Marston and Morton, so simple, okay? Depends on how many marks, okay? Only 2 marks, you only have to say the most important would be the intention of the acquisition, okay? Don't have to list out all 6 badges, okay? For a 10 marks question, please list out the 6 badges, okay? You need to be flexible. You need to be flexible in the examination. And doing business in Hong Kong, you need to understand what is a permanent establishment, branch or agent. You need to be very familiar. Now, for deeming trading receipts, royalties are always the most important. Okay, so again, give at least, okay, 1 set of answer. Okay, make sure you have every sentences listed out. Okay, section 15(1)(b), section 21(a). Make sure you have all this ready. Okay, you only need 1 page to list out all the set of answer. And by the time it is asking about royalties, just read the question. Okay, read the question, read your answer, and apply. Now for interest, okay, always remember, okay, interest income and interest expense, always ask. Okay, make sure you understand. Okay, for redevelopment projects, nothing else. Only interest will be asked. There's nothing more. Now, for profit tax, you still go on with IBA and CBA. Make sure you need to distinguish what is the industrial building. Some of you don't even understand what is industrial building. Okay, what's the definition? There are six categories. If I'm talking about research, it will be industrial building. Okay, at least you know this. Okay, prescribed fixed asset. Now we have more. Okay, we have environmental EPM and EPI. Now we have vehicle as well. Environmental vehicle is new. Okay, make sure you know. And also the lease assets. Okay, you need to know the section 39E. Okay, before it's very related to the Datatronic case for the manufacturing. Okay, whether a leased plant and machinery used outside Hong Kong. Now, exchange differences and financial instrument, it is not for module, okay? Not very relevant for module, very typical in FE. Many times, okay, for DIPN 42. Now you need to know what is offshore funds, okay? DIPN 43. There's one question on it, it's very good, okay? You just have to take this question with you in the don't ask me which diet, I couldn't remember, okay? But there is only one question, okay, have been asked about DIPN 43, and there's one in FE as well. A typical answer, just put it in, finish. Okay, all the anti-avoidance provision, general anti-avoidance provision, transfer pricing, be a bit careful, okay? Now we have expanded so much, okay? We have section 20, we have section 61, we have 61A, we have DIPN 45, okay? We have 46, we have 47, many, okay? So many. Okay, remember secant case. Secant case is very important. It's about tax rule following accounting concept. Okay, all the accounting concept, if they change, okay, we need to follow. The tax rule follow the accounting change. And then you need to know about your profit tax computation. If I were you, I always ask adjustment. Okay, I always have a standard profit tax computation, and I write the adjustments, okay? For example, the exempted income will be dividend income, the interest income exemption order, okay? Something like that. I always write this on my computation first, ready to be used. I won't use a blank profit tax computation in an examination. I will at least write down all the adjustment first, okay? To remind myself that I need to do such adjustment. So if I go into exam, it's about profit tax computation, and I'm very lost about top, okay? At least it can recall you some of the adjustment that you need to make. Okay, salary tax, okay, you need to exactly know what is Hong Kong employment, foreign employment. When can you claim exemption? Okay, section 1A, B, section 1B, what is 60 days rule? At least this is so simple. 60 days rule, you need the keyword visit. What is visit? How to count the days? Okay, who can claim 60 days? Section 1A, bracket C, okay, double taxation relief. Some of you, okay, I've just cleared with my FE students. What is the difference between double taxation relief and tax credit? Obviously, you don't know, but we don't have time, okay? You don't know. Sometimes you've got two choices. What's the difference between tax credit and double taxation relief? Probably you're not sure, okay? Now for share options, you need to care about share awards as well. What's the difference between share options and share award? How to tax, okay? When are you going to tax? What's the difference? I just asked you the termination of employment and the departure from Hong Kong. Two different treatments. Then you need to know the salary tax computation. You need 3 sets, okay? One is for individual, one is husband and wife, and one is for PA. You cannot just ignore husband and wife, okay? One day you will get married, you still have to. Okay, you still have to calculate anyway. If you're married, you will be more familiar. Okay, then tax administration, the reporting. Now, I've just clarified with you what's the difference between section 51 and section 52. hold over, okay, session 7, hold over, okay, when can you hold over? If you don't hold over, what is conditional, what is unconditional? Just have one set of notes is enough. Now, section 78, okay, error and omission claim. Okay, you have to be final and conclusive before you reopen a case. Okay, you have to satisfy section 70 before you open a case. Okay, you're telling me reopening. If the case is not closed, how can you reopen? So it has to be final and conclusive before you reopen it. Then you've got the IPN 45 and 47. It's a good idea you just go back to the HKICPA website and listen to the other videos. That's the quickest way. Okay, just remember, okay, it has been asked actually in the DIPM 46. It did not mention DIPM 46, but the question is such like DIPM 46. Okay, it's asking you how to do what's the transfer pricing methodologies. Okay, whether it is in arm's length, such updated. Okay, and stamp duty about scope, okay, head 1 and 2 only, 3 and 4 forget it. Okay, only properties and shares, and basically nothing too much to ask about stamp duty, only group relief is the most important. Are we finished? We finished, okay, glad. Okay, so again, common techniques to pass QP, module A to D, FE, only one set of notes. Prepare better your critical notes to bring to FE, okay? Practice writing, time yourself, okay? When I did my QP, I always time myself, okay? I locked myself in a room, not for 3 hours, normally 1.5. Okay, I only managed to do the case, okay? By the time I got better, and then I timed myself for 3 hours, okay? Don't just copy, be a bit logical, okay? And remember, your writing has to be eligible to read, okay? Sometimes I cannot read my students' writing. Now, the final advice page is from HICPA, so you can just recall. Now, yeah, you should just recall, it's a very basic one. Now, if you want to contact me, okay, there are several ways that you can contact me, okay. You can just email me, okay, I will get back to you, okay, but I got many classes. You just tell me, okay, you're from HKICPA seminar, okay, module D. I will return you. I will return your email, it's okay.